There is a pistol carried by more American soldiers, police officers, and civilians than almost any other handgun on the market. It won a $580 million military contract. It replaced the Beretta that served our troops for 30 years, and it can fire without anyone touching the trigger. 3 separate juries have now found it defectively designed. More than 100 people have reported being shot by this weapon while it sat in a holster. At least 2 civilians are dead, and yet no government agency has the legal authority to pull it off the shelf. Because in the United States of America, firearms are the only consumer product exempt from federal safety oversight. This is the story of the SIG Sauer P320, the gun that fires itself. SIG Sauer is not some fly-by-night company. It traces its roots back to 1853 in Switzerland and 1751 in Germany. The American arm is headquartered in Newington, New Hampshire, where it employs over 3,000 people. By 2022, SIG produced more pistols than any other manufacturer in the country, 1.5 times more than its nearest competitor, more than Glock, more than Smith & Wesson, more than Ruger. Over 3.6 million P320s have been sold. The P320 was supposed to be their masterpiece. Launched in 2014 at the SHOT Show in Las Vegas, it was the company's first striker-fired modular pistol. You could swap the grip, the caliber, and the frame. Their marketing promised that the P320 would not fire unless you wanted it to. They explicitly said you did not need a tab trigger safety for the gun to be drop safe. It won American Rifleman's Handgun of the Year. Hundreds of law enforcement agencies adopted it. Millions of civilians bought it. Then the United States Army discovered something terrifying. And what SIG did with that information is the real story. Because the company had a choice: fix every gun or protect a $500 million contract. They chose the contract. In September of 2015, the Army launched the Modular Handgun System competition to replace the aging Beretta M9. 8 companies submitted entries. 12 pistols were evaluated. SIG entered a variant of the P320, and during testing in April of 2016, the gun fired when it was dropped. The Department of Defense testing report confirmed it. When the pistol was dropped on the back of the slide at roughly a 33-degree angle, the striker hit the primer and the weapon discharged. No one pulled the trigger. The gun just went off. Now here is what matters. SIG did not stop selling the civilian P320 after that discovery. Instead, they focused entirely on winning the contract. On January 19, 2017, SIG was awarded the $580 million deal. Their P320 variants became the M17 and M18, the new sidearms for the entire United States military. But the Army required SIG to fix the drop fire problem before delivering a single pistol. They had to install a lighter trigger, a lighter sear, a lighter striker, and a mechanical disconnector. The military version got the safety upgrade immediately. The civilian version did not. For roughly 16 months after they knew the gun could fire on its own, SIG kept selling the original, unfixed P320 to American citizens. An estimated 500,000 of those pistols made it into homes, holsters, and nightstands across the country before SIG finally announced what they called a voluntary upgrade program in August of 2017. Not a recall. They never called it a recall. And here is the critical detail that changes everything. The defect is not just about dropping the gun. That is what SIG wants you to believe. The real problem runs deeper. In February of 2017, SIG prepared a document for the Army marked highly confidential. It was a failure modes, effects, and criticality analysis. That document identified 13 different situations where the P320 could fire unintentionally. Only 7 were eliminated. 6 remained at medium risk. The document also identified 17 hazards that could result in killing a person unintentionally. 9 of those remained at medium risk even after mitigations. Many of SIG's recommended safety measures involve training the user, not redesigning the gun. Then in August of 2024, the FBI's ballistic research facility tested a Michigan State Police M18 that had discharged while holstered during routine duty. In 50 test runs, that pistol fired 9 times without anyone touching the trigger. That is an 18% failure rate. And when the FBI tested a brand new M18 off the shelf, they replicated the problem. The striker safety lock spring could become unseated through normal law enforcement movements. kneeling down, standing up, running, shifting in a vehicle seat, everyday motions that every cop performs every single shift. The upgrade was supposed to fix everything. It did not. At least 35 documented incidents involve upgraded or post-2017 P320s. The fix did not eliminate the problem, it reduced it, and the people paying the price are not engineers in a lab. They are cops and veterans and gun owners who trusted the name on the slide. Officer Richard Fernandez Jr. of the Houston Police Department was directing traffic ahead of a Martin Luther King Day parade in January of 2025 when his holstered P320 fired. His hand was nowhere near the weapon. The bullet went through his right calf and lodged in his ankle. He required emergency surgery and now has permanent numbness. He filed a $10 million lawsuit. The Houston Police Department had actually tested the P320 back in 2017. In drop tests, the gun discharged 4 out of 30 times. They adopted it anyway. In Milwaukee, Officer Yang Lee knelt to examine a car in September of 2022, stood up, and his holstered P320 fired a bullet into his partner, Officer Charles Lasky Castle's leg. Body camera footage captured the entire thing. It was the third such incident in Milwaukee in 3 years. The department replaced every P320 with a Glock 45. A Cambridge, Massachusetts officer named Jacques Desrosiers was shot through the scrotum, left inner thigh, and right knee by his own belt-mounted P320 in October of 2019 while simply walking toward the police station. A federal jury later found the gun defectively designed. The law firm handling most of these cases has tracked nearly 500 suspected unintentional discharges across the country. And then there are the deaths. Detective Lieutenant Walter Imbert, a 20-year veteran of the Orange, New Jersey Police Department, a United States Army combat medic, a range instructor, and a sniper, was killed on April 8, 2023 when his P320 discharged. Evidence indicated his finger was not touching the trigger. He left behind a wife and daughter. Roman Neshin, a 41-year-old computer technician from Feasterville, Pennsylvania, was found dead in his basement on October 1, 2024. His P320 had fired through its holster into his groin, puncturing his femoral artery. Plastic shrapnel from the holster was found inside his pants. An unused tourniquet sat in his lap. His cell phone was by his side. He bled out trying to save himself, but here is the part that should make your blood boil. Sig Sauer's official position has not changed. Their website states, and I quote, "The P320 cannot under any circumstances discharge without a trigger pull. That is a fact. 3 juries disagree. The dominoes started falling in 2025. In June of 2024, a Georgia jury awarded $2.35 million to Robert Lang after his holstered P320 fired into his thigh. Testing showed the trigger required only 4.5 pounds of pressure and needed to move just 1/6 of an inch before discharging. That is the width of 5 credit cards. In November of 2024, a Philadelphia jury hit Sig with an $11 million verdict after veteran George Abrahams was shot by his holstered P320 while walking downstairs. The jury found Sig showed reckless indifference to the rights of others. In July of 2025, a third jury in Massachusetts found the P320 defectively designed, 3 for 3, and the institutional exodus accelerated. Denver banned the P320 in April of 2025. Chicago pulled it from roughly 1,400 officers. Houston suspended it in August after the Fernandez shooting. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, ordered all agents to stop carrying it and switch to Glocks. The Air Force Global Strike Command halted all M18 use and inspected nearly 8,000 pistols, finding 191 with mechanical discrepancies in the safety lever, striker assembly, and sear. Washington State permanently banned it from law enforcement training. And in October of 2025, New Jersey Attorney General Matthew Platkin filed the first state-level lawsuit in American history, seeking a mandatory recall of a firearm. His complaint called the P320, quote, like a set mousetrap. So what did SIG do? They went to their home state of New Hampshire, where they employ thousands of people, and they lobbied for legal immunity. On May 23, 2025, Governor Kelly Ayoade signed House Bill 551, which prohibits product liability claims against firearms manufacturers based on the absence of certain safety features. SIG's own Vice President of Government Affairs personally lobbied the state legislature. No public hearing was held on the amendment. The bill passed along party lines. The governor later received a maxed-out campaign donation from SIG. And here is the fact that ties this entire story together. Firearms are the only consumer product in the United States exempt from the Consumer Product Safety Commission. The CPSC has jurisdiction over more than 15,000 types of consumer products. It can investigate and recall toy guns, Nerf guns, crossbows, and gun safes, but not actual firearms, not ammunition. That exemption was written into law in 1972 by Congressman John Dingell of Michigan, who sat on the National Rifle Association's board of directors. When Congressman Jonathan Bingham of New York held up a toy gun on the House floor and said this pistol will be covered under this bill, but a real gun that could blow up in your face and kill you would not be covered, not a single other representative supported his amendment. It failed immediately. No federal agency can set safety standards for guns. No federal agency can investigate defects. No federal agency can order a recall. There has never been a mandatory recall of a firearm in American history. Think about that. In October of 2018, Cracker Barrel recalled decorative pineapples because 2 customers cut their fingers. Meanwhile, over 100 people have been shot by a pistol that 3 juries found defective, and no government authority can compel the manufacturer to do anything about it. This is not a gun control story. This is a consumer protection story. This is about what happens when a product exists in a regulatory vacuum, where the only accountability is private litigation against a company with hundreds of millions in revenue and the political connections to rewrite the laws in its own favor. And the man running Sig Sauer through all of this is CEO Ron Cohen. In April of 2019, Cohen was convicted in a German court of illegally exporting 38,000 pistols to Colombia using false end-use certificates. He received a suspended prison sentence and was fined $675,000. He was arrested at Frankfurt Airport and detained for 10 days. He remained CEO. He is still CEO. A February 2026 investigation by The Trace, based on over 100 hours of interviews with dozens of former SIG employees, reported that Cohen has fostered a culture prioritizing production numbers above all else. A former quality technician who worked at SIG from 2017 to 2020 stated he would not feel comfortable carrying one of those guns every day. The Remington Model 700 had the same kind of trigger defect. Remington knew about it before the gun went on sale in 1962. They covered it up for 62 years. At least 24 people died. Over 7 million rifles were affected. The P320 story is the Remington 700 story happening in real time, but with one critical difference. This time, the evidence is accumulating in public view. The only question is whether the ending will be any different. Right now, more than 100 lawsuits are pending. Millions of P320s remain in civilian hands. SIG is also spending aggressively to buy political protection in other states. They donated over $300,000 to Florida legislators in 2026 as that state considers its own immunity bill. And Sig Sauer's official position has not moved 1 inch. They still insist the gun is incapable of firing without a trigger pull. 3 juries, the FBI, and over 100 victims say otherwise. If you found this investigation valuable, subscribe so you do not miss what comes next, because this story is far from over.